We are going Tex-Mex today in the sartorial kitchen. Kicking things off, it is my Tex-Mex inspired meatloaf with sofrito and homemade enchilada sauce on top. Then it's my fried corn cakes with fresh corn from out of the garden hidden inside. And last but not least, my mashed jicima. Why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me? Welcome back, everybody. Yes, it's been a while, hasn't it? Summer has come and gone, and I have returned with some fabulous new recipes for you guys. And today is a classic Sunday home dinner with a Mexican twist. Yes, we are doing a meatloaf today, but it's not your traditional grandmother's meatloaf. It is my Tex-Mex meatloaf. So to start things off, I've just chopped up one large yellow onion, just a fine dice on that. I'm throwing it into 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of olive oil. The oil is going to give us that high burning temp. The butter gives us our flavor. I'm just going to stir that up a little. And my peppers here, these are just bell peppers, nothing too spicy. Yellow and red for the color and the sweetness, and the green for just a little bit of heat. Now we're going to give this a little zhuzh of some salt. That salt is going to help these sweat down. They're going to release their juices and start to just caramelize nicely and just get nice and tender and translucent. This is going to be the base flavors of our meatloaf, because we always season in flavors. This is going to be a sofrito of sorts. So a sofrito, very similar to kind of like the Holy Trinity and Creole cooking, or any kind of soup base where you have your onions, your carrots, your celery. But with the sofrito, it's bell peppers. And then I'm also breaking up some garlic here. This is fresh garlic from out of my garden. I know I usually like my jarred garlic, but I got a lot of great garlic that came out from out of the yard that I want to utilize here. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do this whole bulb, because I want my meatloaf to have lots of flavor. So I just smack my knife down on these, and they pop right out of the shell. All right, there is the last of my garlic. Make sure we get all the skin out of the way. We don't want skin in our meatloaf. I'm just going to kind of come in here and give this a rough chop. I don't want to bite into any thick pieces of garlic, so I want this to be really finely done here. Just a little back and forth. So once that garlic is all minced up, I come in here with some fine, coarse salt. Sprinkle that right on top. That salt is going to break this down. And you literally just take your knife and give it a little smash, chop it up some more, and then you just kind of take your knife and smooth it out along the salt. You need a nice hard surface to do this on as well. And you can see how it really becomes nice and fine. You kind of fold it on itself. And you get some nice little fine pieces of garlic. That looks great. All right, that's gonna go right into our sofrito. Beautiful. And give this a little stir. Of course, I always wait to do the garlic because it does not take as long to cook and it will burn. So just a couple minutes on that and we can get our meat. All right, I've got my mixing bowl here. To that, I'm going to start with a couple eggs, so I can watch for the eggshells. We do not want eggshells in our meatloaf. Brava. And I'm just going to come in here and give those a little stir, just so they incorporate better into our mixture. Perfect. And these veggies have sweated down beautifully. Look at that, guys. Now for our meat, sofrito is not the only thing that is making this a Tex-Mex meatloaf. In addition to the traditional ground beef, and if you're not familiar with meatloaf, it's usually ground beef. You can do veal, pork, alongside with it. It's usually a combination. You can even add chicken or turkey. That's why it's called meatloaf, because it's a loaf of meat. I'm using chorizo. What I love about the chorizo, it's pork. It's like a sausage. And it's already been flavored. It has all this wonderful stuff going on in there. And you know me, in the kitchen, I love when I can find something where somebody else has already done the work for me. All right, so this, I'm just gonna kind of cut that in half so it's easier to get out of the container here. And with a meatloaf, this is one of those times you cannot be afraid to get your hands dirty. And just plop that right into my mixing bowl. Beautiful. Same thing with the chorizo. Just slice that baby right open. And fry that up. And dump that right in here. Now we're going to come in here with my wooden spoon. And I'm just going to kind of give it a little tamp down. I want to get that egg in here. And I want to break up that chorizo into our ground beef mixture. And then we're going to turn off our veggies. They are finito sofrito. Oh, that smells so good, guys. I'm going to turn this guy down too. Stay tuned for that. Okay. So the egg, that's going to be part of our binder. That's going to help hold all this together. So it is one of the most important guys here. And I'm going to actually pull that off the heat. I want it to cool down slightly so it doesn't scramble our eggs as soon as I throw it in here. Okay, that looks good for now. To continue our Tex-Mex flavoring, normally we add milk to meatloaf to help it stay moist. I'm using crema. Crema, you've seen me use this before. It's like a Mexican sour cream. I'm doing about a 1/4 cup. So it's going to add a little tang. That's going to help balance out the spiciness of that serrano. We're also going to season this baby up. I've got some salt here, about a couple teaspoons, and about a teaspoon of black pepper, a pinch of cayenne, just to really kick things up a notch, and about a tablespoon of my ground cumin, because I want this to have lots of great flavor. Now, breadcrumbs are traditional for a meatloaf, but we're shaking it up. I'm using some cornmeal here. About 3/4 cup. That's going to help. That's going to be our binder. It's going to give it a nice, interesting texture, some great flavor. And last but not least, our sofrito. This right over top. And scrape this mixture right in there. Make sure we get all the goodness out of there. That is our flavor base. That is where we kind of got started here. Oh, that looks so good, guys. Okay. And then I'm just going to come in here lightly, fold, just turning everything kind of over on itself, getting those veggies incorporated slightly. And then we'll come in with our hands and really shape it together. All right. Another reason I let our veggie mixture cool down some, because I am mixing this together with my hands, and I do not want my hands to get burnt from hot onions. And you just come in here. I'm very gentle with it. I kind of fold it over and then press down just until everything's well incorporated. I do not want this to get overworked. Otherwise, we'll have a really dense meatloaf, and I want a nice, soft, tender, juicy meatloaf. And just until everything kind of comes together, and you can kind of see that you've got that sort of consistency or texture that you're looking for, where it's going to kind of hold up on itself. Yes, this looks pretty good, and I think it is ready to go in my pan. All right, got my pan here. Now you could use a loaf pan, like a bread pan. You could do mini muffin size. I've done that before. This one I like it shallow, so I can spread it out thin, and it's going to cook a little quicker than if you were to have it like real tall. And then we're just going to come in here and gently pry this out of my mixing bowl here. Ooh, doesn't that look good, guys? Okay. Beautiful. Okay, set this aside. And then we're going to come in here with our spoon here and just kind of smooth this out. I just want it to be kind of nice and thin and even, so it all cooks the same. That looks great. Okay, now just a couple more things before we throw this in the oven. All right, so a couple more things before I throw this in the oven. I'm gonna set this in a baking rack. And we're gonna fill that with some water. Again, to ensure that our meatloaf stays nice and moist and prevents it from cracking on top. And I'm just gonna carefully pour the water around it. Just enough water to go about halfway up. I don't want any water getting inside. And then lastly, the meatloaf is normally topped with ketchup. So I've got an enchilada sauce here that is going to go on top. This is my semi-homemade enchilada sauce, and I'm going to show you how I made that right now. For my enchilada sauce, I take garlic powder, onion powder, cumin, cayenne, salt, and pepper, and let that toast in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil, just until those raw spices cook down. Then I add an entire can of tomato soup base and thin that out with about equal parts beef broth. Let that come to a boil and then reduce to simmer until those flavors meld together beautifully and you have your enchilada sauce. And then I'm just going to spoon this right on top. And another reason why I'm using the roasting pan, because if this spills over, we don't have to worry about it making a mess in our oven. Now this is a little thin, but it's going to cook down more in the oven, and it's just going to create a nice crust on top, which is going to give us another depth of flavor and texture, as well as seal the top and really lock in those juices. We'll just make sure it gets a nice even coating all around. And now that is ready to go in my oven. All right, now this baby is ready to go in my oven. I've already preheated it to 425 degrees. It is going to cook for roughly 55 minutes to an hour. Of course, we'll check its temp in the middle and see that it is cooked to a beautiful 155. And in the meantime, we will start on our jicima. All right, guys, that meatloaf is in the oven and it is already starting to smell amazing. Now I'm just peeling my jicima. So what is jicima? It's a tuber like a potato. However, it is not the same family as the potato. So anybody who has trouble with potatoes, digesting, not so good. It's also lower in carbs. So all of you low carb people, this is a great alternative. I basically just come in here with my vegetable peeler, you get a good spot. And then I give it a little turn here. So I get all the outer bits off, just like that. And then it comes right off. You get nice little strips of it. And there we have it, our peeled jicima. All right, now that that is all peeled, we can cut it up. So I'm just gonna come in here and just slice off the tippy top parts of this, and then it's going to sit nice and flat for us. Same with this guy here. Those ends, they're just really fibrous and they really don't cook down as well as the rest of this. Then we're going to cut it in half again, so we have flat surfaces to work with. Now this is going to be like a mashed potato, so it's going to get a bit of a puree, so I don't need it to be too small of pieces, but I am going to dice it up rather generously, just so it cooks quicker. And then I'm just gonna come in here, just like you would a potato, slice this, stick slices. So that is water that I had boiling while we put our meatloaf together. Heavily salted. These, much like potatoes, are naturally bland and need all the help they can get. That salt is gonna get into these and flavor them from the inside, which is also gonna help them cook faster, because these take a while to cook. They're a little more fibrous than a potato. So to really break that down, you gotta let it boil for a good while. So it's gonna cook almost about as long as we've got that meatloaf in the oven. And then we'll drain the water, add the rest of our crema, some butter, some flavorings, and just give it a good old mash. All right, welcome back, guys. Our jicima is boiling away. Our meatloaf is doing its thing. And we're gonna go ahead and turn our main skillet back on a low heat. And I'm frying these babies up. So I've got the rest of my lard here that I use to grease our skillet. That's gonna cook down and give us a nice fry. And speaking of fry, corn cakes, how about that? Need a couple eggs to start with. Uno, dos. Anytime I'm working with eggs, I love to use them first so I can watch for eggshells. Just like with the meatloaf, we do not want eggshells in our corn cakes. So I'm gonna give that a little stir for the rest of our wet ingredients. some more of our crema here. About another 1/4 cup. And then we're gonna thin that out with a little milk. It says use buttermilk, but I wasn't gonna buy buttermilk and the crema, so I'm gonna do about a 1/2 cup of each. That'll give me, I'm sorry, 1/4 cup. About a 1/4 cup of each. That'll give me my 1/2 cup. Beautiful. And that is basically the extent of our wet ingredients. Now for the dry ingredients. For the dry ingredients, you know I'm gonna sift those out because I want it to be really nice and light and airy. It is going to be a cup of flour, all-purpose, and a cup of our cornmeal. Yes, our cornmeal is making a return. Right on top there. Beautiful. Let's get these guys out of the way, shall we? Baking powder, about a half teaspoon, just to give that a little lift, make it nice and light and airy. For some heat, about another pinch of cayenne. About a half teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. Yes. And then we come in here and just give it a little tappity tap tap tap. So all those dry ingredients are well incorporated. I'm mostly doing this for the flour, of course. And then we're just going to come in here with our whisk and give this a gentle zhuzh until everything comes together into a nice little batter. I don't want to overmix it, otherwise we're going to have really tough corn cakes. No thank you. Okay, that looks good. Now I do want these to be slightly sweet, so I am going to add a couple tablespoons of sugar. And just kind of whisk that in. And I've got some corn here. This is frozen corn from out of my garden. Just one small bag. I'm going to dump that in. And just slightly fold that in. I like adding real corn to this because it's going to give it a nice texture. You're going to bite into that and get those little sweet kernels. It's going to be so good. And that is our batter. And that's kind of the consistency you want, almost like a pancake mix. If it's too thin, you can always add a little more flour. You just want to be careful. You don't get it too thin, too thick, or it's not going to cook up right. Okay. And we are ready to start frying these babies. I've shown you before, but I'm going to show you again. If you're never sure if that is hot enough, get a little water, and you'll hear it sizzle. You want to make sure it's just the right temp. Otherwise, they're not really going to cook. They're just going to sit in that grease and get oily. And I'm just going to come in here with my ladle, just a nice little ladle full, and plop that right down into this oil. I don't have a ton of the shortening in here because I want this to be kind of a shallow fry. We're not really deep frying. But I should have enough to do 4, I believe. I don't want to overcrowd the skillet, otherwise they'll steam and they won't fry. And we'll just let those go till the edges start to brown and they'll be ready to try. Alright, these babies look like they're ready to flip. Just like pancakes, they'll bubble on top, the edges will start to brown. I'm just going to gently flip that over. Ooh, look at that. Nice and crisp. Not too done. Another. Oil is up to temp. We can kind of play with that a little bit. And once the one side's cooked, the other side only takes about a minute and a half tops. So that's good. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, these are ready to come out. I've got me a little plate here with some towels on there. That's gonna drain the grease. I do not want these getting too greasy here. Throw those down. And then I'm gonna come in here with my flaky salt. Anytime you fry anything, this is the best time to throw a little salt on there. And these should fry really good because our oil is finally at the perfect temp. I'm going to do about another 4. I'm hoping to get about a dozen out of here, maybe a dozen and a half. Just depends. Adding that corn gave us some body too, so that allows us to stretch the recipe out a little further. I just want to make sure these are separated so they don't clump together. Otherwise we can't. Now, Let's see how far along we are on these guys here. Ah, the knife's coming right through now. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to turn this off. And then we're going to get my little strainer here. And I'm going to grab a glove for this. It's just a little hot. Safety first. And I'm just going to gently pour this water out. Okay. And then dump this right back in. Now if a little water stays behind, that's okay, because it has that starch in it from this. And that's going to help us as we mash this up. So, while it's still on the heat slightly, I am going to come in here with about a half a stick of butter. I'll leave that out so I remember to get another stick out. And the rest of our crema mixture. So that's about a half cup or so. And if we have to add some more water, we can. Or milk, I mean. There's my little mixer guy here. If you want it, you can use a potato masher. It's a lot of work. And I don't feel like exhausting myself. This will do just fine, however. It's a lot quicker, and we're just going to come down in here and press down. Okay. Now to this, a little more salt, some pepper, generous amount. This needs lots of flavor in it. Nicely, as you can see. It's still just a little thick, so I'm going to add a little more milk here. So I want these to be nice and creamy. That should be good. And speaking of looking good, time to take these out. Oh yes, oh gosh. Guys, I can hardly even. A little more salt, just a pinch. And for our next round, I may get 4 batches out of this, we'll see. And I think I will. We'll do a batch of 3 and we'll do another batch of 3. Alright guys, I switched to my hand mixer here. I've got all the big pieces bricked down with the immersion blender. Now I just want to fluff these up. And before we finish that up, I'm ready to take these out and move on to my last batch. I'm hoping to get 3 more out of this. I may only get 2, we'll see. Maybe a silver dollar size. Perfect tasting size. Oh yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. And then one more thing that is going to make this jicama super lush. Some jarred queso. I need a spoon for this. Because I want this to be extra flavorful. And that is the sound for my meatloaf. We will grab that here in just a second. I'm going to come in here and stir this in. It's going to add a nice little kick of heat, and it's just going to make these nice and creamy. Lovely. And I do want to come in here and give these a little taste. Make sure they don't need any more seasonings. Let's see here. Ooh, yeah. A little more salt and pepper. I am getting some slight heat from that queso. And then I'm just going to give it one more little go around. Okay, that is gorgeous. We're done with you. Thank you so much. Okay, let's pull you out. Woo! Oh, yum. Yes, okay. Set you here. Beautiful. Oh, look at that, nice and golden crusty. Now let's take its temperature. Stick this guy down in here. Not all the way down. We don't want to hit the bottom of the skillet. We want to get an accurate temperature measurement here. We're looking for about 155. Because I will cover it and let it rest. and we'll get the rest of our time out of it. See, so far, and we've kind of really poked down in it, so you're getting down into the meat of it all. And let's see, we're right there about 150, 155, beautiful. After I take these babies out and give them a little zhuzh of salt, we're going to grab some oil here. That should be good. And then I'm going to pull this out from the bottom of our skillet here. Let it drip. I'm going to set that right on here. That's going to allow it to cool evenly. Just like when I'm baking, the air gets underneath and it cools evenly. That's going to help it release itself from my skillet better when I go to serve it up, as well as really make sure that it stays nice and moist and all those flavors kind of seal in together. And just gently cover this up. About 10 to 12 minutes tops, which gives me time to clean up a little. And then we will dig in. All right. Let's unveil this baby here. Oh, gorgeous. And it's steaming hot. Beautiful. Just gonna come in here and slice that up. Go lengthwise. You can see it's nice and cooked through. And then I'll kind of come down here, make little slices there. That's enough for now. But I think we are ready to plate up. So I've got my little plate here. I'm gonna come in, get one of my little cakes, and a nice dollop of our jicima. And the last but not least, and what's great about going first is I get the nice crusty ends of the meatloaf. Haha. Yeah, I want all this little crusty goodness. And I think I'm gonna take a little more of that enchilada sauce on top, and maybe a little on my corn cake. And we are ready to dig in. All right, bon appetit. I think I'm gonna start with the jicima here. There's a slight sweetness, and it has a little bit of texture to it. And then I'm getting the heat from that queso we threw in there. Perfect amount of salt. So good. And our corn cake. And listen to that crunch. Nice and crunchy on the outside. Perfect amount of salt. You think it's just a hoe cake, but then you bite into it and you get those little pieces of corn. Just a little burst surprise. Now for the main event. So tender. Spoon cuts right through it. Oh. Moist, soft, tender, juicy, and packed full of flavor. All that cumin, the cayenne, and then you get the texture from those veggies. And then having the enchilada sauce on top just gives it that little something extra. I know I've said it before, but I think about that myself once more. I'm gonna finish this up, clean all this up here, but I will see you guys next time. And as always, like and subscribe, hit me up in the comment section, and whatever.